Yeah. So, without further ado, first of all, thank you for taking the time, man. I've been looking forward to this interview, um, and I kid you not. From
And I
what,
have tried to dodge it for a
yes,
hot
you have,
second.
and look at the stars aligning. Because I wrote your name down. It's been more than 7 months, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
to reach
Okay.
out. Yeah, I need to reach out to you. I want you on the show, and I'm so glad you could make it. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
think.
welcome. So welcome.
Well,
Yeah.
once this is over, I'll find out whether I really want to thank you. I'll be like, oh my God, it should be dead now.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, and let's begin. So for those who don't know you, how would your mom describe you? How would she describe
Whew.
Ibtisam so we can get a better understanding of who you are?
So my name is Ibtisam Habib. My mom would describe me as her last born of 2 kids. I have an older brother who's about 3 years older than I am, and I am 29 years old. But obviously, to my mother, I am her little baby forever. She would also describe me as the rebellious daughter that she didn't think she was going to end up having.
Okay.
And to my mom, I am very rebellious. There's a lot of rules that I've broken so far. She's eventually happy with them, but it's taken her a hot minute to be okay with them. Yeah.
And just on that, can you give us like 1 or 2 rules that you've broken? I'm guessing that
sure
you've broken some traditions, clearly.
Yes. I definitely have. One of the main ones that always keeps coming up is that, according to my culture, you only move out of your mother's house when you're going into your husband's house. Yet I currently live alone in this big city, aka Nairobi. My mom lives in Mombasa, which is the island and the beautiful part of Kenya, the coast side of it. But I live here alone, not with my mom and not with my husband either. And for the record, I am not married. So that in its exactly. So that in itself was a big question mark to many people. Like, why would she live alone? And I know to many it also just looks like I'm being rebellious. But for me, it's because I got an opportunity to work in Nairobi and my family lives in Mombasa. I wasn't gonna let that go just because I don't have a husband in Nairobi. You know what I mean? So that's one. The other one is that I am almost 30 and I am not married. My mother got married when she was 17. And in my culture, you get married as soon as you're done with high school or secondary school. So by 18, 19, you get married. And I am not yet married. So to many people, they're questioning a lot of things. Is it because you took her for education and then now she's not valuing our culture? Like, they're asking a lot of questions. Yet for me, it's just because I haven't really found the man I want to get married to. It's not because I don't want to get married, but yeah. So there's a lot of those things that keep coming up, and they keep associating the rebelliousness with perhaps me going to get an education. So they're now telling the other people, you see what education does to you.
You end up not getting
it makes
married
you become
and living
rebellious.
alone.
Yeah. But yeah, so for a hot minute, it was an uncomfortable space. But now she's very happy. She's been to my place. She likes what I do, and it's all good.
And this is very interesting to me, actually, because I saw, I think it was your last Instagram post about marriage, actually, and I was gonna discuss this later, but since we're on the topic, let me just also understand this. So, in the Muslim culture, is the man supposed to go and get the education and then go work? And where I'm going with this is, it seems like in your culture, the traditional culture, obviously it's moved, it's transformed over the years, but then women are supposed to get married at a young age and become housewives. Is that how it usually works? Just school me on that.
Oh, I would gladly love to, because that's one thing is actually part of what I try and do every time on my social media platform, is people confuse Muslim culture with Arabic culture. Okay. And it's in a context, it's like saying a tribe and a religion as two very different things.
Sure.
It just so happens that a lot of Arabs are Muslims.
Okay.
So the Arab culture,
Mm-hmm.
that tribe, the Arab culture is more for men. Goes the boy child goes to school, the boy child gets a job, the boy child takes care of the family. The girl child gets bare minimum education, preferably just Islamic education, and then gets married and builds this home with her husband who takes care of her. That's the typical Arab culture. The girl stays at home. You're not supposed to go out to work. That's not really your thing. However, that's not what Islamic culture tells us. And that's where there's usually friction between the two, because according to the Islamic culture, and our Prophet Muhammad that we believe in, his wife was his boss. So she was an educated woman who actually hired him to do trade. So according to Islamic culture, we can do whatever it is we want to do as long as we keep it halal. So I'm allowed to work. I'm allowed to get an education. I'm allowed to do literally everything that I can. But because a lot of Arabs are Muslims, they tend to confuse the two and make the girl feel so guilty for wanting an education or for wanting to work. Yet really, that's just the tradition, the Arab tradition. It's not about Islam.
So okay, and I will stop after this. This is actually mind blowing, and I also apologize for my ignorance. But you know what? I'm also learning.
No problem.
And so, can you describe the difference then between an Arabic culture and Islamic culture, right? Because yes, being Muslim is the religion. It's like being Christian or Jew, etc. But then
Exactly.
what's the difference then between the two? Is Arabic and Islamic different tribes? I'm just trying to get.
So it's like, I wish you were Kenyan. It would be easier for me to explain to you because I use the tribes here. But let me know, like,
You do the Kenyan.
Zulu, is the Zulu a
Zulu
tribe?
and Xhosa, yes, Zulu, Xhosa.
Yeah, so
okay.
so you can be Zulu and Christian or Zulu and Muslim, right? You could be whatever religion, right? So people confuse the Zulu tradition for it being the Christian tradition. So there's some things that your culture, your African culture tells you that a girl should do this, 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 but it's not a Christian thing. It just so happens that you grew up a Christian. As a Zulu man, you were a Christian. That's the same thing for me. I'm half Arab, half Persian. So but we grew up in a Mombasa setup where a lot of people were Arabs, and we have a huge influence of Arab people. So a lot of people tend to take that Arab culture that tells you a girl should not really get an education. It's not important because what's the point? She's going to get married eventually, and she's going to be a housewife. So why bother go through high school and then go to university, and then soon after she's getting married and having babies and staying at home? Yet that's just Arab culture. According to my religion, I can do whatever I want to do. If I want to choose to be a housewife, by all means. But if I want to choose to go work, no one should stop me. Because again, our Prophet's wife was an entrepreneur. She was actually the boss lady. And that's when these old aunties come at you and start saying, oh, why are you focusing so much on this whole education and getting a job? I always pull that card up and say, but Prophet's wife was the boss lady. What's wrong with that? And then now they start saying, oh, but yeah. So it's just confusion of the two. There's always been that confusion, and it's not something new. It's been there for generations now.
and help me understand. Yeah, sorry, I'm cutting
sorry.
you.
Yeah, and I'm saying now, with time, a lot more people are talking about it because a lot more people are more exposed as well to education, and social media is doing a good job also showing people that, because there's also been this stereotype that if you go out to get an education, you most likely will stop being a practicing Muslim because you get exposed to the whole world and you want to try things. So that's also part of what I do on my Instagram platform, is by just showing people that I did this. I went to university and I'm working, but I'm still a practicing Muslim. So let no auntie back at home try to tell you that the two don't work together. That's a lie. Yeah.
And Very, very, very interesting. So my last question on this is like, why do you think that is so? I mean, I was also obviously through my ignorance said Muslim culture, but would you blame it on the media? Is it people just being ignorant and being lazy? Because I mean, I should have obviously done more research, and this obviously goes across even cultures. I mean, in terms of when you speak about white privilege, you know, Black Lives Matter, etc., etc. When
Yeah.
people need to get educated, but from your point of view, why do you think people confuse, yeah, Arabic culture and being Muslim, etc.? And who drives that? You know?
I think from back in the day, from our great grandparents, because the Arabs are the people who brought Islam into the country for the most part, like in Kenya,
Mm,
right? They're the ones who came. Like I know my great grandfather came to Kenya from Iran to preach Islam, so they brought in their culture too, like
mm,
their like not the faith, the culture, and
sure.
they educated them as the same thing, like this is how it's supposed to be, and people just
Mm,
continued living without questioning it. They just took it up. And sometimes I would generally ask an auntie, but like Prophet's wife, and then they start thinking for a second, like they've never really thought about it that way. And then, but that's the thing, when no old person wants to be corrected about these things, right? So
mm,
they'll find something new and give it to you and all that. But I think it's just people have accepted some things and didn't take the time to question it or to just study it. Just like I
sure.
know a lot of people are born Christians and they accept whatever they got taught or whatever got
Mm,
passed to them from their parents. Yet you grow up and you start questioning some things and you're wondering, why do we do this?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Which is
yeah,
the
so
same
it's the
journey
same
I'm
thing.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the same thing. A lot of us have just accepted these cultures that have been passed on generation from generation, and we've just said, okay, if that's what my parents and my grandparents did, that must be the right thing, right?
Mm.
And I think that's what it is. I don't know.
Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. And it's actually opened up my eyes a lot. And I definitely need to go and research more. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think
No
just
worries.
as I think as young professionals and as the next generation, I think we owe it to ourselves to actually um, reimagine our future where we all understand each other. And yeah, so
Right.
I appreciate that view. You mentioned you briefly mentioned Instagram and what you try and teach on Instagram as well. Uh, this is through the channel Hijabeefied. Is that, am I pronouncing it
Yes.
Hijabeefied? Because I
Yes.
said hijabi food first.
Hijabified.
Hijabified.
No,
Oh,
hijabified.
almost like petrified from Harry Potter. Okay. Hijabified. So, talk to me about Hijabified. How did it start and why? And yeah, just take me through that journey.
Yeah. So Hijabified started in 2015. I just celebrated my five-year birthday in May, actually.
Happy fifth birthday.
Um, Thank you, thank you. And when I started Hijabified, I didn't think it was gonna grow to where it is right now. For me, I started because I moved to Nairobi from Mombasa, and
Mm,
Mombasa is about 75% Muslim. So it's very easy to be Muslim in an area where everyone else is
is Muslim.
Muslim.
Yep.
So I moved into Nairobi for university in 2011. And in a class of 300 people, I was the only Muslim girl. So the peer pressure to want to be different, to want to fit in is ridiculously high. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'll be the only girl who wears hijab. I will be the only girl who doesn't drink alcohol. I'll be the only girl who is so different from
Mm,
everyone else. And so through my journey in university, I saw a lot of my friends who we schooled back in Mombasa moved to Nairobi, and that peer pressure got to them,
mm,
and they completely transformed from who they were before they came to Nairobi. So when I saw Hijabified, I knew it was going to be just that page where, because there's some friends that I really wanted to talk to and
sure.
tell them, yo, like, come through, sis, don't fall for the peer pressure. But I couldn't tell them because we weren't that close. So I
Mm,
started this page to just try and show her and hopefully a few others who are going through the same space that you can still be very modest and live your best life. Like you don't have to transform who you were to live your best life. So the intention was always, okay, just showcase different Muslim sisters dressing up modestly, doing their thing. So I started posting my friends who are doctors, my friends who are architects. So I just started posting different girls to show that. And then, but in the caption, I would always try and also talk about how Muslim girls can do a lot more than what society back at home has been telling us. So more or less trying to challenge the narrative as told by society by showing that there's people who are doing it and they're doing just fine. And so that's how it started up. But at some point I realized I was getting so many messages by people telling me, you know what, thank you for talking about this, because I kept feeling like I was alone. I was out here in the city, the peer pressure was getting to me, and it became a platform where I engaged with so many young girls who could relate to this whole Muslim girl in the city and feeling alone and whatnot. So eventually, slowly, I got to like 1,000 people, and I was like, okay, there's like a tribe here that I'm getting, you know. So it slowly became just that platform where I was trying to tell stories that would challenge the narrative and just make people think and question things. So I would talk about anything from financial management to this whole thing about getting married when you're a teenager, or people thinking if you're in the corporate life that then you can't be a good wife. So I would just talk about many different things that would affect a lady today. And it moved from just being a Muslim lady, but just any lady, because I realized the platform grew, and it wasn't just Muslim ladies, it was just women. And a lot of these things, a lot of African women could relate to. Because even in just a Christian household, if they had little cash, the boy would be prioritized to go to school. It wouldn't be the girl. And it's just a cultural thing. So I started just talking to people, and I realized it was something that a lot of people could relate to. And now somehow there's about 42,000, I think, followers. It's grown to something a lot bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And every time I still get that Instagram direct message by a young girl telling me, oh, thank you so much for talking about this. You really inspired me. You would think 5 years later, I'll be like, it's cool. But I still get so excited that there's someone who can connect to the content that I put out, that just keeps challenging the narrative and make people think a little, so that we just don't take up the culture that has been passed on from generation to generation.
So
yeah, I feel like I've really gone on with that.
No, it's no, it's lovely stuff. And congratulations on that. So I have,
Thank you.
since we on this topic, I'll bring in. There was a question I wanted to ask when you're speaking about your friends being doctors as well. You can still, as you said, like not lose yourself and still live your best life. So I will get to that. But I just wanted to talk about just the page itself as it's grown to plus 40,000, followers. Do you feel like you have a greater responsibility now in terms of what you post because of how it can actually affect a teenager? And where I'm actually going with this is, I don't know, in a way, as you grow bigger, and you might not experience it, but you might find your content is more curated, and you're thinking about how is this going to affect the next person, which may make you go away from your authentic self in a way.
Authentic self.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just talk to me
I
about
get
that.
that question. I get that question 100%. So there's a time I realized as well, when you keep posting, you tend to know what people like the most. So sometimes there's a time I almost started changing and started posting what I know people would like. And that was about, I think, 2 years ago in 2018. And I'd moved to India. And I realized I was losing it, because it was now more of, okay, people want to see more of this. Okay, I will share more of this. But then I realized I was losing who I was and what I wanted to put out there. And I'd get older women who would send me messages and tell me, oh, my daughter saw your content. Now she's talking about all this education thing. And I'm like, sis, let your daughter talk about education. She has a right. And I'll try to just pull up content from like Quranic verses and send to her so that she understands. Don't confuse Arab culture with Islam. This is the right thing. But I had to take time out. I took, I think, 3 months away, and just started to think about it. And I'm like, okay, what do I want from this page? Because when I started off, my intention was very different from what it's become right now.
Sure.
And it's no longer about just that influencing that one friend that I wanted to talk to. It's a lot more than that. And people now start looking up to you, and when you do something wrong, people will start telling you, oh, you're influencing young girls and you're making them do what you're doing and whatnot. But after I took that break and really thought through it, I came back and said to myself, I will keep posting what I truly believe in. And it might rub off wrongly to a lot of people. And for example, I'll tell you, sometime in January or February, I talked about racism in our culture, which is the Arab culture back in Mombasa. The racism is for Arabs who live in Kenya. I find it quite ridiculous because this is a black nation, really. But you'll still find a lot of racism within our households. If you tell a typical Arab mom in Mombasa that you want to get married to a black person, I
like,
I cannot begin. They would rather. I still remember this conversation. This woman was telling. Now, a friend of mine had that conversation back at home. She comes from an Arab family, and she would say, "And in my faith, you must get married to someone of your same faith. So the guy must be Muslim too. So that's what our faith asked us to do." When she went home and said she wanted to get married to a black Muslim brother, the mother said she would rather bring home a white non-Muslim. And I was like, hold up.
Hold up. For real?
Yeah, so racism is ridiculous, but no one wants to talk about it because you would rub off your mothers and your aunties really bad. So someone would tell you, I'm not racist, but if my mom would say no, that's it. So I put up a post about this and it was wild. But I was like, it's okay. Someone needs to talk about it. And if I'll be the bad person within society that aunties will tell you, do not be like Ibtisam when you grow up, I'm okay with it as long as I'm speaking my truth. So that was my decision, that I will use my platform to keep sharing my truth. And it might not be your truth and you might not agree with it, which is fine. As long as I sleep at night knowing I'm sharing what I believe is right. And that's when I stopped overthinking this whole influencer thing and putting content that others would like. Like, I know for sure if I posted today a post with me full on makeup, that would get the most likes. Like, everyone wants that vanity. And I know that would grow me like overnight growth. But that's not really me. So I'd rather keep posting my ridiculous pictures with really long captions, but I'm talking about something that I know I believe. Yeah.
Very inspiring. And I mean, just go back to your story. It seems like that lady values whiteness more than the religion itself. You know, if she said she'd rather bring home a white non-Muslim versus a black Muslim, okay, it's very surprising.
That's what I'm telling you. It's the whole thing where people confuse culture with faith. And at that point, that gray area that they have in the middle, they tend to really confuse it. So I'm like, you realize, because now the Arab culture now here is not pro-black. When you go deep into it, you'll realize it's very crazy racist. But because they almost inclined to now fall on the Arab than the Islam, they get confused there. Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. I think it's actually a topic. Look, racism is obviously a big topic, and it's something I'd love to explore another time in terms of actually racism amongst the Arab culture, because we speak about it from a white culture, you know, but there's different pockets, you know, and different cultures that treat racism differently. My second question, I mean, you're speaking about your doctor friends, etc., etc. Can you actually tell me what we don't know about maybe Muslim women entrepreneurs? You know, For example, I was reading like an article that there's actually more women in the UAE, about 33%, that actually run companies that revenue over $100,000 versus the 13% in the USA, which is more, almost three times as more. But we hardly hear these stories, like, so what don't we know that you'd love to share?
I think that's it for me. I just keep going back to, because the one person, the human that we keep going back to as our role model is always our Prophet Muhammad.
Sure.
And I always go back to referring to his wife. She really
Boss
taught
lady.
us. She was yeah, the boss lady. She was it. She's the one who used to run the damn business. She was known by people in that time that she used to do the damn thing. And she hired the Prophet. So right now it's just very, there's actually a lot of women who run businesses here, but you'll find that they don't really get recognition of sorts, because somehow it's a patriarchal society, whether we want to admit it out
Oh,
loud
true.
or
Yeah.
not. You'd always, I actually read a post the other day on LinkedIn, this guy saying there's a woman who got some recognition for being, I think, top CEO or something. And the comment was, she must have had a great husband behind her. And I'm like, what? Excuse me?
Wow.
That's the thing. We always keep, if the husband wasn't very supportive, she wouldn't have made it there and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, guys, come on. No one looks at the top. Like we had like Safaricom CEO, which is the telecommunication company we have here. There's a really great guy who was leading it and whatnot. No one said it's because his wife was there supporting. Why is it that when a woman's leading something, it's because her dad or her husband? So I just think it's a patriarchal society. So that's why you don't end up hearing about the women boss ladies that exist. But they are in plenty of women who are doing a great job. And right now as well, just in a Kenyan context, I've got a lot of my friends that are doing great things. Architects, doctors, lawyers, and some are married, some are not yet married, and some have families already, with children, and they're still doing it. Yet, if you come back and ask society about it, you'll be like, they'll tell you, if she's being a good doctor, it means she's being a bad wife at home.
Oh.
Yeah, there's always gonna be that thing, always.
We just can't celebrate women excellence. Is it that hard for us as guys to say?
And that's the thing. It's not just guys. Hey, it would be a woman somewhere who is living a different life who would feel no. If and that's why I usually don't understand why there's. But I think education and more time, as more of us keep getting educated and going back home and educating our parents, that thought would change. Because right now you still find I know there's people within like my extended family who still look at my mom that she probably failed somewhere for me to be where I am, because I'm not married and I'm about to be 30. And it doesn't matter if I'm an independent woman traveling the world, paying my own bills. It doesn't matter. She married though.
Wow.
Like that's So it's a very messy one, but we hope as I have faith that our generation, and when they become like parents, that will sort of change, because we know better now. I hope.
I hope we do.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Very, very interesting insights. And I mean, we face also a patriarchal system here in South Africa, which also people sometimes don't talk about it, but I'm glad that now with social media, I guess the positives of social media is that now we can actually begin to talk about it. Even the whole thing around male privilege. Yes, we talk about white privilege, but let's also talk about male privilege. And I'm also being educated on my privilege as well, and the safety that a woman in South Africa, I can only speak from South Africa, faces. Like, she never feels safe, where I can actually walk down the streets relatively feeling.
I was telling my male friend just last week, have you ever gotten into a lift and seen a woman and thought, oh my God, I'm so scared something might happen, or seen a man? And I was telling him, as a woman, You always get into that lift, and if you see just one guy in there, you start thinking of a backup plan. Okay, what happens if he tries to do this? Like, it's ridiculous. It's actually quite ridiculous. And we were talking with another friend of mine saying, imagine if they locked all men at 6 p.m. and said no man is allowed to be outside. It would actually be very safe for a woman to walk around.
Wow.
But men don't realize how privileged they are when we talk about these things. Because as a woman, if I was to walk out at 9 p.m. alone, I would think of all these things. Okay, if someone comes behind me, which side would I run to? Okay, is there anything I have in my bag that I can use to defend myself? It's just madness.
And it's, you know, a good friend of mine, it was an interesting thought experiment that she challenged me to do, just so we can never relate obviously to what women go through, but just have an idea. She actually said, Noto, imagine gay guys, you go out and gay guys are always catcalling you, asking you for your number and trying to touch you in inappropriate ways.
Yes.
How would that make you feel? I was like, oh god
exactly.
damn. You know, and
And
always
that is the
just
story of our
hollering.
lives every single day.
And for me, there was just a moment of reflection, you know, and I, I instantly felt uncomfortable. I'm like, can you just leave me alone and walk? You know, like I wanted to, so I mean, I implore people to do those thought experiments. It's similar to also disabilities as well, you know, understanding being able-bodied. They also said, I'm just trying to remember, they said I must do a thought experiment in terms of oh, it wasn't disability. There was another one. I'm just forgetting that one. But in terms of you being a homophobe, for example, right? They said, no, let's switch it up. Let's switch it a bit, right? Because you have these strong views and you say this
Right.
man should marry a woman. Then they said, imagine if the culture said you're not allowed to marry a woman, you know? How would that make you feel? I'm like, oh God, no. You can't tell me who you know, so it's just
Who I
switching
can
that
marry.
story, you know, which again, I implore a lot of people to do. Just going on to my next question, you know, this is a two-part question. And again, I'm here to learn. So it's two parts, and I'll ask the second part after you've answered the first part. Can you just school me on the history of hijabs, right? The roots. And secondly, which will lead on to my second part question is, why is it controversial to the West, or more in particular France, which you can touch on? So yeah, can you just school me on the history of hijabs and the roots, first of all?
Can I please start answering your second one first?
Okay, that's fine.
Do you realize France is now asking people to cover up, though? Like, mask up. But people are now looking Muslim. Everyone's looking Muslim in France. So that's just them being Islamophobic. That's it. Really, just no reason to explain it. Because if a woman can walk out in a bikini, I don't see why a woman cannot walk up covered. Like, that should be my right? If you're okay with me being at the beach wearing a bikini, a two-piece bikini, showing off my body, why is it a problem with me choosing to not show my body? I think it's just them being Islamophobic. That's my genuine 2 cents on why France thinks otherwise. And I know, see, the thing is, it's so easy to hate something you don't understand, and to try and push your beliefs onto someone else. My thought is, if I am not harming you in any way, like, I'd understand if when I'm traveling, you want my face to be seen because, you know, I need to see your passport and I need to recognize that it's you. I understand that. The ladies who cover their faces are very willing to open it up when they're traveling. But if I am on the road walking, what's my face got to do with you? Why do you need to recognize me? It's the same thing like man wearing a cap and covering half his face. You're not telling him to remove his cap. So I think for me, the France situation is purely just from an Islamophobic point of view. That's it. That's what I've taken out of it.
And just on that, can you tell the people, you know, like, if you can just define briefly, as we say in the workplace, top line, right? What is Islamophobia?
Islamophobia is the hate of now in this case religion, Islam, is the hate of Islam um, basing it from what you think it is. So, for example, just like actually, it's as simple as homophobic. A homophobic person is a person who is absolutely hates people who are gay, for example, and they might absolutely not understand what a gay person goes through because you're not them, right? Like you will just assume what goes on. So the same case as Islamophobia. As a person who lived in India, um, worked in an office where there's 2,000 people and I was the only visible Muslim girl, and it's a country that has had a history with Pakistan, which is now the Muslim counterpart, and they don't get along well. So they are the brain sort of automatically switches to dislike this religion because they've had issues with Pakistan who are Muslims. So you start hating everyone who looks a certain way. Even you don't even give them a chance to get to know who the person is. You just automatically hate everyone who's Muslim. And I'll tell you my experiences there for a hot second. I would get to the airport, everyone else would be allowed to go, and I'd be stopped. I remember I'd gone for a holiday in Delhi for 3 days. I came back with a small suitcase back to Mumbai, and this guy stopped me. And I was already very aware that it's a country that doesn't really it's not really friendly to Muslims. So I was at my best behavior. So this guy stops me and tells me, go to the room. And I tell him, no, let's just stand here in public. Tell me what's the problem. He tells me, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Delhi. He's like, why is your bag so small? I'm like, because I was there just for 3 days. He's like, why are you in Mumbai? I tell him I work in Mumbai. So he asked me to give him my passport. And he's like, but you're Kenyan. I'm like, yes, I'm here for an assignment for 1 year. So he goes through my passport, and it shows that I'm there under company XYZ and I'm sponsored and all that stuff. And he's like, no, why did you move to India? So he starts questioning me, and he keeps telling me, go to the room. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to no room. Let's do everything here in public because, I know where you're going to take me after that.
Yeah.
So, and everyone else who is not Muslim, like that's the thing, wearing a hijab makes you visibly Muslim. Like I can tell you're Muslim. Everyone else just walks by and I'm like, why aren't you stopping all these guys with small bags? If the issue is me having a small bag and not being Indian.
Yeah, let's talk about the real issue here.
Yeah, like, so I'm like, let's just be honest. Is there a problem because I'm Muslim? And we can get to that. I'm telling you, I work here and I've been here in the country for a couple of months now. I've gone for a holiday. That's why my bag is tiny. I'm not from Kenya. But it was a thing. Everywhere you go, you just get that second eye. And I know part of the issue is because there's been a lot of terrorism. And you keep hearing that the terrorist was a Muslim. So somehow they've decided that all Muslims are terrorists. And so when you are a visible Muslim, you have to prove that you're not a terrorist. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. So and that's what Islamophobia is about. It's already that's labeling you as a bad person until you prove yourself otherwise. Yet we always talk about this, and when in the US you see when a Muslim person actually does something wrong, the headline will read Muslim terrorist. When a white person does something wrong, unstable mind person, and the label always changes, right? And that's the same thing. So that's what Islamophobia, and I think media has played a really huge role to keep this adding fire onto that conversation. But Islamophobia exists is when just people simply dislike you for being Muslim without giving you a chance to explain or to see who you are.
No, it's very interesting. And I mean, I was just asking for clarification. And when you're describing it, it's similar to, I guess, how racism can be rooted from many directions as well. I was speaking in South Africa, where if you've been robbed by a person who happens to be black, then then you'll tend to almost label without giving anyone a chance. And even as black people, we actually do this, and sometimes we don't talk about it.
To your fellow black people.
Yeah, like you feel, for example, I might drive up to a robot, and if a black person might get controversial, but just come up close to my window, I will hide my my things, you know.
Your phone and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but there's also you always, I don't know if there's ever a balance, you know. I'm just trying to keep safe at the end of the day,
Right.
because if I'm just going to be
Yeah.
chilled and relaxed, I will most likely get robbed, especially in South Africa. Look, we have high crime
Yeah.
rates, etc.,
No,
etc.
they
So,
stole my phone, your people. Yes, I know.
oh,
I was, yeah. I know, in Durban, the
yeah,
last day before I traveled
wow.
back, and I
I'm
was
so
mad. But yes, I
I
get it.
apologize for my people. It's look, we have a very complex history. Inequality is driving a lot of this. But anyways, topic
Yeah.
again for another day. Um,
Mm.
and then can you just briefly touch on the history of hijabs? You know, obviously it's tradition. Is it? Oh, actually, let me ask it this way: hijabs, hijabs, is it from a religious point of view or culture point of view?
It's from a religious point of view. So the Quran clearly calls out that um, men and women observe modesty in your dressing, and it is
Mm,
best for you to observe modesty in your dressing. So it's one of those things that is clearly called out in the Quran, and over time, and why it's controversial is because a lot of people have also taken it up as a cultural thing. People have also now confused it for being a cultural thing, an
mm,
Arab cultural thing. So you find a lot of people wear it or take it off because it's also just something that was told to you by your great grandparents, and then your mom did it, and then your grandma did it. So you do it too, but you have no idea why you're doing it. So when you're not feeling like doing it, you just take it off because, culture.
mm,
But like, I know personally, I don't come from a very strict religious family. So it's something that I just started reading myself. I started reading the Quran myself, and something that I believe in. So for me, it's who I am. I know hijab makes me identify as a Muslim, and it's
mm,
something I'm very proud to identify as, even though you go to different countries and you might be a minority and end up getting less benefits as the rest of the people. But it's something that hijab just allows you to be a Muslim, practice Islam very easily. And it's one of those things where I'll tell you it's not easy. Um, because you, as my friends would say, sometimes you remove your hijab and you're like, girl, damn, you're looking hot. But you remind yourself that you're doing it for God. And I think it's also part of it. It's hiding your beauty for it not to be seen by everyone, but for it to be seen by the people who actually matter to you.
mm.
So I choose to show you what I want you to see.
Sure. Yes, you're
Yeah,
taking control.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's exactly that, and that's, I find that very beautiful. I know, I'll give you another story. I'm a storyteller. Back in university, I told you I was the only Muslim guy in a class of 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
So one guy who was a friend of mine in school kept telling me, Ibti, I would pay you. I'm just so curious to see how your hair looks like. And it's like, I would do anything. I just want to see how your hair looks like. And
Mm,
I'm like, no. For me, it's a faith thing. I'm not covering it for any other reason. So I started explaining it to him. Imagine you getting married, right? And then you are the only one who can really see everything about your wife. And then when she's out there, this is how people are. The boys are asking her, can I please see your hair?
mm,
But
mm,
then when she's in, you know that she's covered up, and that is for you. And it's the same thing for a man, actually. A man is supposed to actually be modestly covered as well. So, and that's the same thing, that you are the one who gets to see him in his entirety. So I find it a very beautiful thing to be modest, because I know I get control and I get to show the world what I choose to show them.
mm,
And I will not be viewed as a sexual thing, so that you don't tell me, oh, you will get this because you look a certain way. I'm just a covered person. You can't give me that. It's the same thing in some corporates. You get to hear, if you dress up a certain way because you look a certain way, you get a promotion. You can't do that with a hijabi girl, because we all look more or less the
mm.
same. We're covered. You're gonna have to judge me by my brains. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like my brains, khalas, that's it. But
Very,
yes, it's a very hard topic. I'll tell you that, because I know a lot of people struggle with it, because, as I say, you remove it and you're like, oh damn. But
God damn, yeah,
yeah,
like damn.
yeah, So it's more of faith. You're doing it, remembering that you're also doing it for God.
Very, very interesting, and thank you for actually taking us through that. Because for me, I mean, some of the notes I had here was the way you've actually put it is you choosing to show what the world is. And my issue is that sometimes the media and the narrative that is put out there is that the I won't say Arab culture, but they will attack the religion to say sometimes it's being very
Oppressed.
oppressive, yes, and
Yeah.
it's trying to control women, which if you put it in your terms, it's just a different way of looking at it. Look, we can also
Yeah.
attack the Christian religion, and you'll actually find that it's people from it's a religious war debate, etc., if you want to talk about it, but it's the people that are controlling the media that happen to be a certain religion which
Yeah.
are actually pushing this to say these cultures,
Mm.
and this is when they mix also the Arab
Yeah.
culture, the Muslim religion. They're saying
Muslim.
these
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
here are very oppressive.
Mm.
So thank you
Mm.
very much for putting it in that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about it being oppressive, it also comes from, because there's you met some Muslim girls who will tell you the same thing, that they were feeling oppressed, and the reason is because their grandma and then their mom was just told to wear it, and no one took that extra time to understand why am I wearing it and whatnot. So when you're forced to do something, it's very easy to say, yo, I don't want to do it, this is oppressive. But that's the thing, when you take the time to actually go read about it and understand it and fall in love with it yourself, it's if anything, it's very liberating to be covered. I've genuinely, because as I said, I'm Muslim I'm a minority in the setup that I'm in, and I hang out with my friends, and they keep telling me how they get hit on by so many random guys out of disrespect, and they would just look at me and just let me pass, because the girl's covered anyway, I'm not going to get anything from her. So for me, it's such a shield for me as well, and it works for, other than it being a faith thing, it gives me so much respect as well somehow in a society where women really have to work for respect. I should be respected whether I'm wearing nothing or not. That's the hard truth.
Definitely.
But somehow, for being covered, I guess that a little bit more. My friend who's less covered would get catcalled more than I would. That much I know for sure. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Anyways, got a long way to go as a society, but
Very.
we start one step at a time.
Here's to baby steps.
Yeah. My last question, just on this, before we get to know you better, is what piece of advice would you have to? I mean, you spoke about the teenagers now that you can influence. What advice would you have to a young Muslim woman trying to find a voice in this new world?
I think for me it would be, don't just do things because society said it. Just go study. Just get educated, really. We have so much knowledge out there right now available. Before you wear hijab, honestly, don't do it because your mom's doing it. Go read about it. Before you go get married, before you go to school, go find out, go just get knowledge, then do things. Because if we're all going to just follow what our mothers and our grandmothers and what society is doing, we will keep repeating the mistakes, and we're never going to solve these problems. Just get educated.
I like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well said, actually. Well, you're quite the orator, actually, storyteller,
I tend to like telling stories. That is true.
No, I actually remember, you had many stories. Okay, cool. So we're getting into the section of which is tradition actually in the show now, where we get to know the guests better. We ask some more personal questions. But before we start, I want to know: do you want to take a comfort break? Do you want to make tea, or do you want to get into it?
No, I'm easy.
Okay, no, cool. I have how many questions here? I have 50. I'm joking. No, I actually have just 12 quick questions to ask you, So the first one, let's just get straight into it. Given the choice of anyone in the world, dead or alive, right? Who would you want as a dinner guest and why?
Oh, so there's this lady called Yasmin Mugahid,
Okay.
and she's a Muslim lady, and she preaches for the most part, but on things that are affecting society today. And I
Mm,
just love to sit down with her and understand how she got to that strong point, um, to be able to have so much confidence, talk about things that can be very controversial, but also still maintain that faith. Because it's not easy to remain faithful to your religion right now. There's so many pressure from all over the, like,
mm.
looking at you everywhere. So I'd really like to just sit down with her and just absorb everything from her, just understand how did she get there and how does she do it every day.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
So,
don't even know whether she's successful in her career, or I have no idea. And I would really want to know.
what's her
Yeah.
name? Because you know what, I'm gonna get my people to talk to her people, and we're gonna make this happen. All
Please.
right.
Her name is Yasmin
Yes,
Mujahid.
Yasmin Mujahi. Mujahi. Okay.
Yeah. I know you'll struggle even to spell that. I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah, and then I'll post it on the show
I'll
notes
send
as
you her
well.
link. I'll send you her link so you can check her out to
No,
understand just why I would want to get to meet
yeah,
her.
we're gonna move mountains. We're gonna make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So, second question. What are you most grateful for in life?
Yo, weirdly, I think my mind, just
Mm,
because I've I've grown up in a very strange childhood. I had a strange childhood, and I somehow and have figured out, not fig- I'm figuring out how to still be positive and take those learnings from my childhood to be a positive person and just heal from it. Because it's very, when I look back and when I tell like my very close friends who know me more about how that childhood was and how it is now, they tend to like they would have expected me to be a very negative person right now, to be a very angry person. Angry should be the word, yeah. But somehow my mind rather finds a way to stay positive and try to give excuses and reasons to why things happen and why they happened, and just be a happier person and just maybe just make my own path and not let that past define what I'm gonna be.
mm.
Yeah, so I think my mind.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. One of my mottos is actually, and the quote I actually live by is actually treating your mind like a garden, right? So similar to how a gardener will tend to the garden and pull out the weeds,
Hmm.
that's how you should actually be treating your mind. And every morning you wake up, you should be standing guard at the gates of your mind to know what you let in. And it's so funny where
Right.
weeds are bad, and weeds don't need any sunlight or water to grow, weeds being the negative thoughts that you have. So
Mm.
you need to
Mm.
constantly be working at that. And some people just, I don't know, through obviously your history, etc., just don't have the energy or I want to put in the effort to pull out those weeds. So yeah, fully agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Treating your
Yeah. And
mind
I
like
know,
a
and I
garden.
know, and I started to be more aware of it when 3 years ago,
Mm,
I used to carpool to work with a colleague of mine, and I used to hear his stories. And there's a part of it that was quite similar to mine. I realized how my mind works very differently when he took his own life. Um, and I realized the mind is a very important thing. Hey, his mind told him there couldn't be a better future, and
mm.
the past kept defining his present. And I guess I don't know, but that really just took me back and made me really grateful to my mind for being very strong and positive. Yeah,
No,
so my mind.
No, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the mind. Look, I could talk about the mind. It's basically my mantra in terms of how I live my life as well. You must
Mm,
actually read a book called James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, one of the best books you can read. I don't know if you've read it, but it's just
no.
basically about as a man thinketh, so shall he become. You become what you think about
Mm,
all day, etc. I mean, I could go on and on forever.
yeah.
You're touching on a topic I'm very passionate about, but
Passionate about.
yeah, going
I'll
on.
check it out.
Yeah, going on. Going on to the next question is there something, Ibtisam, you've dreamed of doing for a long time, and if you have, why haven't you done it yet?
Yeah. I've dreamt of running this modest fashion line for a hot minute.
Mm,
For yeah. And this year was gonna be that year, hey? I had plans, I was gonna travel, I was gonna get that line started. And then Corona told me to calm down. So hopefully I'm gonna get to it. And first, at the beginning, I wanted to just grow, learn how to run a business, and that's why I'm still employed. And I really ended up liking what I do
mm,
while being employed. And I realized though later I didn't need to quit one to do the other.
sure.
That's how you make people work for you and you make your money work for you as well.
Mm,
So I realized all I needed to do was start, set it up, and get people who could help me run it. It will still be my baby, but I can get people to work for it. So hopefully, I'll one day Hijabeefied will have that line too. When I'm not sure now with how this year has gone, but hopefully soon,
okay.
soon. But I was actually supposed to start working on it in June. But yeah,
If you knew in 1 year that you would suddenly die, would you change anything about the way you're living right now?
to be honest, I'm very, very grateful and very happy with where I am right now. And it's not where I would, it's not the goal.
Sure.
It's not hashtag goals. I still have just one couch and I'm waiting for the rest in this new house that I'm living in. But when I look back in high school, I, people have when I grow up, want to be a pilot and I
Mm,
want to be I never had that. I didn't know what I wanted to be. And I don't know. And I keep asking myself, I don't know whether it's because in my family, I didn't really have women who were working per se. And that's why I didn't really think that was possible. I really don't know why, but I never
mm,
really had that thing I wanted to be when I grew up. So when I grew up and realized I liked business, and then I got into a company that I can like do business and I'm living and I'm traveling and I think for me all I just knew is I wanted to be financially independent. And
mm,
when I got to that level when I am financially independent right now, and by that I mean I can pay my bills and I can do that once in a year travel and I can buy my own clothes and I can buy the fancy bread that I want that initially I'd have gone to really think about, maybe I should just buy half of it.
mm.
I'm just really grateful. Hey, like I almost sometimes I think about it. I'm like, is this life really mine? I am, and I know to someone who's like a lot ahead would probably think, oh, poor girl. But to me, to me, I am living my best life right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I am so grateful. I cannot begin to explain how grateful I am. I didn't think a girl like me could get here, to be honest, and I am here, and that's pretty cool.
Young child, your dreams are
Yeah.
valid. We keep on saying that.
They are. They really are.
Next question, right? If you were to give a TED talk, let's say on the main California stage, right, where it's the biggest stage where the whole world is going to see it, what would you speak on?
Huh. I will probably talk about the power of a woman I'll probably, because what bothers me the most is how culture and society has defined a woman. So for me, it's always that I wanna redefine what society has said we are and what we can do. So I'll probably talk about how a woman can do whatever the hell she wants to do if you let her do it, if you just don't block her path.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that's what I'm really, that's like what's
just
at
yeah,
the core of my heart. Yeah. So it's probably gonna be the power of a woman.
I like that. Uh,
Yeah.
Leading on to the next question, what frustrates you the most about the world or your country or just the current environment? The one thing.
Let women be.
Okay, that was the easy one.
That's very easy. That's very easy. Honestly, there's so many things like financial management, for example. I was talking to girls and about importance of saving and investing and whatnot, and we don't even get taught these things. A boy would be taught because you're gonna look after your family one day, so you need to
Mm,
learn how to do this. A girl is just just learn to cook because you need to feed your husband. Like surely we are a lot more than a good housewife or a good cook for a husband.
mm,
We can be, if only the world just let us give us the same opportunities they give
mm,
the
mm.
man. Yo, yeah,
The,
but we're
the,
taking them even
the
if we
will
don't get given. We still
will
take them
take it.
now.
Yeah.
We're gonna take them. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Um. Yeah, man, watch out. It's gonna be a new world.
Hmm.
So, if
And for the record, I don't think that women should get more opportunities than men. I just think just give us both. Let us start at the same place
mm,
and let us grow from there. But if you want us to start like a lot lower,
we have a lot more ground to cover,
you're
etc.
just
Yeah.
setting us up for failure.
Mm,
Yeah.
no, fair, and that's true. Very true. Uh, if the old Ibtisam could see the new Ibtisam, right? What would the new you say to the old you?
You'll be fine. Don't don't you can cry, like I understand. Things can be hard. Um but you'll be fine. Just keep doing your best, and then somehow someone somewhere will notice how great you are, and you will get the opportunity that you want to get, and you will win, and you will fly, and you will be amazing. You'll be
Mm,
fine.
I like that.
Yeah, because I
Uh,
think I worried so much. Oof, I worried so much because honestly, I used to get told as a Muslim woman, who's going to hire you? You're covered up. No one wants this in a corporate setup. And I
okay.
was like, what do you mean? And I came to realize like people went to apply for jobs, and because they wore hijab, the guy said, I would give you a job, but if only you removed the scarf. And I thought to myself, crap, they remain Muslim all these years for me to get told I can't be Muslim at work. And these things used to like, but I'm so grateful. I ended up getting employed by a company that even
Mm,
set up a prayer room when I was the only Muslim person in the entire company.
wow, that's amazing.
So I stressed so much, but somehow God was gonna make things
Look
work
at
out.
God, as we say.
Like
Look at
He
God.
comes through. He comes through.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's that's a
So
beautiful thing, man. No, that's lovely. Actually, sorry, I'm still actually just simmering on that. You'll be fine. You'll be
yeah.
fine. So, second to last question is: there something you're holding on to that you need to let go of?
Yo, there's a lot, a lot that I'm holding on to. I've been saying how I know I need therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like there's things that I have like buried deep down that I am scared that if I go to therapy, they will now even unleash the things
Mm.
that I don't want to face right now. Um, yeah, I think too. to just help understand is that I'm a child from divorced parents. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old.
Mm,
And it wasn't those, it's not working out, let's split. No, it was messy.
mm,
And court, and then I wanted to live with my dad, and then I moved with my mom, and that it was messy.
mm,
And eventually I lived with my mom. But I think a typical divorced situation is that my mom needed to work so hard to ensure that my brother and I, grew up the best way possible, because there's always going to be those people watching to say she wanted the kids and she failed. She didn't
mm,
bring them up right. They There's nothing to show for it. She should have just left the dad have them. All those things that society ends up saying.
mm,
And I think because of that, my mom was really strict with us, like too strict, a little too strict,
mm.
and that journey of growing up, it was hard.
Sure.
it was really hard. Honestly, in retrospect, when I look back, I understand things needed to be the way they happened, because
Mm,
that was the best way she knew how. And maybe if she didn't do all that, we wouldn't have turned out how we've turned. I don't know, man. I don't know.
sure.
But there's a lot that I've held on, and I'm not sure we're in a place where if I went home and told my parents still, because I'm in good terms with both of them. I'm not sure if I went home and told them, listen, because of you two, my mind went through some crazy times, and the only way I would heal if I tell you guys the impact, what you
Yeah.
did, like how that made me who I am today. But I don't think the typical African parent setup allows for those conversations right now. Like, I feel
Mm,
like if I went to do that, like, I know I'm not gonna send this to my mom, because she'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
yeah.
But I know this is the things that I need to let go of. Yet I know in my mind how my mind works. I don't just forget things. I'm a very confrontational person. I need to sit
Mm,
down with you and tell you, not this is what you did to me, and I'm not
mm,
happy. And I need you to see that what you did to me did this, 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 this. And that's how, after we're done with that conversation, I'll be like, okay, I'm cool now.
yeah.
But I know I can't do that. I know I can't do that with my mom or with my dad or with, society that made us go through some things. So right now, I'm just like, I'll figure it out.
Well,
I haven't figured it out.
and look, there's no rush. I'm not even a therapist. I'm thinking in my head right now, right? Why why not? Or sometimes I feel like as humans we keep on saying um soon, someday. And I've never seen someday in the calendar, for example, right?
Never,
I've
it
I've
never gets there.
yeah, I've looked at different calendars, different years. I see Monday up to Sunday and different numbers, but I've never seen
Yeah.
someday. And just generally where I'm going with this is um just to be briefly philosophical, there's I always try to go to the end, with the end in mind. And there's this story, and a lot of people might not know it, but it was like in palliative care where this nurse interviewed people that are about to die, right? So palliative care is people that are in old age homes or very sickly, etc. Just basically palliative care is leading you on to the next life, depending on your religion, etc.
Hmm.
Um, and she just wanted to ask them, what are your top regrets in life, and then she would collate all of this information. And the number one regret, amongst the other four, obviously, was I wish I had the courage to live the life I wanted to live and not the life other people wanted me to live. That is
Hmm.
struck with me, that is stuck, sorry, with me so long, and which has encouraged me to be courageous, because we keep on saying, yes, I will do it, until you get to the end and you're like, when you get to the end, you're
I
like,
wish I did it.
yeah, oh, like, oh,
Crap.
yeah, by the way, ooh, So, anyways, there's no obviously pressure, but just to let you know, um, one day, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
you do
Yeah, yeah.
you get the courage and
No, for sure. Yeah, I've
yeah.
been trying to figure out the right way, because that's the thing with, I want to do it at a time where I know the people who I will talk to are ready to listen,
Mm,
and there will be something that comes out of it. Because it's one thing for me to want to talk to you if you are not ready to listen. I will probably get out of it more mad.
mm,
So I need to come talk to you at a time where I know you're open minded enough to say, okay, let's do this.
mm.
Then at least there will be like progress.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You must also, I mean, I'll send you this. Mel Robbins, she talks about the 5 second rule, where she actually says, and I believe this, that you'll never feel like having that uncomfortable conversation, just like you never feel like exercising or doing that push up. Very, very extreme in terms of saying motivation is garbage. But why do I keep on saying struck? What stuck with me, what stuck with me was what she said. She said, and this is just my parting view, sorry, is that you're one decision away from a better marriage, a better relationship with your sister, your brother, your parents, um, you just one decision away from having a better relationship with your children. And it's about having that uncomfortable conversation. And I can speak from experience where I have, I have marinated in this decision, playing different scenarios. And you know what? I was like,
Hmm.
screw it, let's just have it and let's see what happens. And after I had that, like, it's the weight that lifts off your shoulder, and
Off.
oh, and life just began. And then the only regret is like, I wish I'd done it sooner. Like.
Why didn't I do it sooner? Yeah.
But anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
This is the spotlight is on you, not on me. I'm hijacking.
No, I'm glad. Sometimes I think you also need to hear it from other people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My last question in all of this is, Ibtisam, I mean, we've been speaking about death, etc. In the end, what impact do you want to have in this world?
Honestly, as long as that one girl gets inspired and remembers that she can be whatever she wants to be, despite what society tells her, even if it's just one, I'll die knowing I was successful.
I like that.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a very basic person.
I love that, actually. Not like, I love that. It's a nice way to end. Ibtisam, thank you very much for taking the time. Um, I have many things to say, but no, thank you from the bottom of my heart. As I said, I meant it. You inspire me. I love what you're
I want to
doing.
know why, because I feel like, I don't
No,
know. Actually, just tell me why. Why do you say that?
so I, why you inspire me is because you're actually challenging society. You did say you're a rebel. Even when I met you in Canada, we and okay, I can't speak for humanity as a whole, but in our heads and because of the culture, we have this stereotype of a Muslim lady, right? Where, yes, you speak about being modest, and we get this in different cultures as well, and also
Yeah.
different religions, etc. But you were just, it, it, it felt so natural. You were you're very bubbly. That's why we got along. We're like a house on fire.
Mm,
And
mm,
already in my head was like, wait, aren't you supposed to be XYZ, but now you're being ABC?
mm.
So for
Right,
me,
right, right, right.
that was inspirational to me, because that meant you were being authentic to yourself. And if you're being authentic, it allows me also to be authentic, to say, if she
Mm,
can do it, why can't I? Let me speak my truth. And yeah, and even when I followed you, you seem like a person, and you mentioned it earlier to say, listen, let me sit you down. I didn't like X, Y, and Z. I'm just trying to think of the conversations we had in Canada, but I just appreciated your honesty, and telling it how it is. So yeah,
thank you.
that's
It's very good to know that's how I rub off people, that I am my authentic self. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. So that's why. Uh, and and I do believe you are the future of Africa, and I do believe you're gonna make a huge dent in this universe. Yeah, I like, yeah.
Aw,
And
Thank you so much.
and as I say, and I always reserve this for people that really move me. Please continue to light up the dark and move the society forward.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for the support and for the encouragement. I really appreciate it. And now this time, actually, thank you for having me. Like, I wasn't sure whether I meant it at the beginning. But thank you for having me. And I didn't think I'd survive 90 minutes.
Yeah, I told you.
You weren't kidding, hey?
Yeah, I wasn't kidding. So yeah, thank you. Have a great evening further. I'm gonna stop recording now. Don't go off the line. Let me see.